What's up, Game Boys and Girls? Big T here, back with another video, and this is a celebration of two of the greatest gaming handhelds of all time. It has been 20 years for both of these consoles, roughly, give or take a few months, but I'm just going to do them together. Yes, we're old, we're all old. These consoles are basically retro consoles now, which is also very sad and true. But we're looking at the Sony PlayStation Portable, aka PSP, and the Nintendo DS. I remember being really excited for specifically the DS at first because even though I bought a Game Boy Advance, I wasn't overly overjoyed with it after the first couple years or so. It became at some point a Super Nintendo porting device. There's a lot of Super Nintendo games, NES games as well. There wasn't a ton of unique stuff. Obviously, it did really well. I think it sold around 81 million or something units for the Game Boy Advance. Yeah, it did very well. It was a very capable console. Technically, it was 32-bit. But, you know, like I said, it didn't do a lot of more unique things. There were some unique devices that were made with it. This isn't the Game Boy Advance video, but I just wanted to kind of set that up. So I was really looking forward to the DS because I felt like it was going to be a more unique device, and it definitely was, with new unique games. But it could also play backwards compatible my Game Boy Advance game, so that was cool. Not that I needed it because I also had a Game Boy player for GameCube, so whatever. But I was also very excited for the PSP, and I remember being a little worried because up until that point, Nintendo had destroyed all of the competition as far as the handheld competition goes. That was their one saving grace when the consoles weren't doing as well, like during the Wii U and obviously the GameCube era. I was worried because Sony was, they destroyed everything when it came to consoles. And here they come with this PlayStation Portable, which looked, to the naked eye, like a portable PS2. And a lot of the games looked really good on it, but it was also a multimedia device. It could also play your MP3s, which was becoming a big thing at that point after the iPod and whatnot. But it also could play movies, like full-on DVD, almost DVD quality movies on the go, and that was fascinating. I understand today that if you grew up, you're a little bit younger, you're a lot younger than me, that's not that big a deal. You're like, oh, who cares? My cell phone could do this and that. There were no cell phones playing video. That just wasn't a thing that happened. You got to take your mind. I know it's hard to do because you've grown up with this stuff. But think about a time where this, cell phone games and gaming and all that stuff wasn't as prevalent. The iPod was like pretty much dominating as far as portable, playing music on the go. And that was these are all standalone devices. And so to have a device that played music as well as played movies, the way that cell phones do today, at that time, we're talking 2003, 2004, was mind-blowing to us. And I had just started, college in 04, or I think it was summer 03. And so I was going to be doing a lot of commuting because I didn't stay on campus. Way too expensive to do that. So I was going to be doing a lot of commuting and getting on a city bus. And I was like, this is a perfect device for me for all the traveling I'm going to be doing throughout the week. I can just, put on some music if I want to, kick back and just have one device. I wouldn't have to carry iPods and whatnot. I have one device to play music, play movies, whatever my mood was. Even when I was at school, because I, got to go to school and do the study thing, and I'd have something, to distract me, or maybe between classes or something like that. I could have a cool device that I could just take with me, and the PSP was that, and then some. It was an amazing device. And so I was worried that Nintendo was going to struggle when it came to the DS. The DS wasn't as powerful. It's easy now to say, oh, the power wasn't, that big a deal. But we didn't know at that time. We thought everybody wanted more power. They wanted better graphics and stuff. So that was a big thing. And so we just didn't know. And Sony, again, They proved their dominance in consoles, so I was a little worried for Nintendo. Been coming out with this little, basically it was N64 PlayStation, as far as graphics go, maybe a little bit more powerful than that. But the dual screen thing was really compelling, and it proved to be something that was a good marketing tool. I'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, so what should I talk? Let's talk about DS first. So here's my day one DS, and it has seen better days. It is busted and disgusted. I have a Walmart sticker on it. The hinge is broken at this point, but it still works. Still works just fine. I think it was in my pocket and I laid on it or something. That's how I cracked the hinge. Because this first model, while looking very strong and bulky and whatnot, wasn't as wasn't as well built as far as the hinges go. But as you can see here, you got your and that was another. This is another thing. We got a D-pad situation, so you knew what type of games, or you thought you knew what type of games you're going to get. So you have your D-pad, your D-pad's here, and you have your action buttons, 4, which is great because the Game Boy Advance only had 2, so that was nice. And then you have your start and select buttons right there. And but this was the game changer. This second screen here, you can put anything you wanted there, right? So all the buttons that you don't have, quote unquote, don't have action-wise, you can make on the screen here your inventory and all that stuff, and then that was very compelling. Obviously, there's the cartridge slot for the Game Boy Advance. There's your headphone jack. Your volume control is there, and on the back here, I should say on the other side, the top side, that's where your cartridge slot is there. Your stylus goes in there, and I believe this is like a little thing for add-on attachments and whatnot. That little or maybe that was for that was for the wrist strap, so you can have a strap so in case it falls out of your hands, it'll catch you with your wrist strap. And that's your charger port there. So yeah, and there's your battery compartment, which is a cool thing because you can easily access the battery and change it if you needed to, replace it. So that was cool. But like I said, the big thing was the dual screen. So you have the top screen for all your action stuff. Bottom screen is where you would do all the kind of inventory menu stuff. Or you could have, like in Mario Kart DS, which was my favorite Mario Kart up until Mario Kart 8. Mario Kart DS, we played the crap out of that game. But that's another thing about this was the Wi-Fi capabilities. This was the first handheld device from Nintendo anyway. Maybe there was some others out there. Handheld device from Nintendo that allowed you to connect online. Nintendo Wi-Fi connection, I think it was called. And so you can play online with your friends and against other people and whatnot. Or you can connect wirelessly your DSs to people near you, near field connection. I think that's what they called it. And that was a very cool thing. So this super caught on, obviously, right? So this appealed not only to core handheld Nintendo gamers, but like a lot of women definitely jumped on. But it was after, I'll tell you in a minute, at a certain point, this console is fantastic. And this is actually very sturdy. It's just those hinges, and I think that was a problem with a lot of consoles. But when they introduced the second iteration of the console, which is the DS Lite, this was the one I believe that sold the most, this version. Here's my white DS Lite, and it perfected pretty much everything with the console. It kept that. Just fantastic. And I think this design appealed a lot more to girls and women, and they started to make games that cater to them. So let's talk about the games, because that's what this is all about. So let's start, since I'm already on DS, let's talk about DS. Now, a lot of my DS games that I had back then, I don't have today, because unfortunately this was college time, so a lot of things that I would buy, I would end up having to pawn because I needed the money. It was the tough college kid life, So I lost some of the main games. I do have quite a bit still, but I don't have the best of the best per se that I did have. I have some of them, but I'm trying to find here. Uh-oh, almost lost that. But let's get into kind of the games that pretty much came out on everything. So there was a lot of like ports, or or well, I should say DS-ified or handheld-ified ports of console games. So we'll look at those first and get those out of the way. So you have stuff like G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra, stuff that came out for everything, but this was the DS version. Let's put that to the side. Then you have stuff like Beyblade, which was, one of those kind of pop-up kind of toy things that tried to be, Pokemon, the next Pokemon, or what's the lesser one, Digimon, that kind of thing. They tried to kind of capitalize on that kind of stuff. Put that away. And you have Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Huge Star Wars fan. Clone Wars is actually a really good show. The first few seasons, not so much, but it really picks up. I want to say around season 3. But yeah, so that's the DS version of a console game. Then you also have Avatar. I don't need to tell you what Avatar is. This is the DS version of that game. Pirates of the Caribbean. Lego. Lego games were starting to get really big in this generation, so there were tons of them. There's another Clone Wars game. And then you had stuff like The Sims, which was perfect for the DS. This actually, I probably should have saved this for a different part. And I'll just put this down here. I'll talk about how cool that was. And here you go, Harry Potter. Again, Lego. All right, so let me get these 3 out of the way. I almost forgot these. So you have stuff like the Transformers. This is around the time, Transformer movies were big. So yeah. That one there, which is on Cybertron, War for Cybertron, Autobots, and then you have stuff like Spider-Man: Edge of Time. Again, where it's like the console version is probably better, but sometimes I buy these games because they were super cheap at the time. Excuse me, I'm gonna sip on my IPA here a little bit, if you don't mind. These out of the way too, and we'll lead into what I was going to talk about here. So you have Bejeweled. I mean, these games are always really good on handhelds, puzzle games. There you go, Bakugan. I'm sure you know what that is. And then I got one of those games of the ilk of, like I said, Pokemon and whatnot. Not the same kind of game, but same kind of fans it was reaching there. And it's Space Invaders, kind of the remaster, a remake, I should say. Space Invaders. Now here we're getting to like the puzzle stuff. P-Cross is pretty cool. I think that's how it's pronounced. P-Cross DS. Very cool. Okay, so now Mechanic Master. Now this is the stuff that kind of you can only do on the DS. So this is Mechanic Master. I remember thinking that this was like you can like tweak cars and whatnot, but so it's over 100 ingeniously challenging puzzles. This is another puzzle game that uses a stylus a lot, and so there were a lot of games that were designed for the DS or had DS-like features because of the stylus and what the second screen would bring you. And then you have stuff like the classic games, 50 games. I think there's a similar game like that on Switch, or it's on everything, I think. Maybe it's just Switch. And then obviously Indianapolis. Like this is a game where you would tweak, your car's abilities and your, you upgrades and whatnot, and you'd use a stylus for that, and it just felt really nerdy, and that was cool. So there was a lot of stuff like that. But for me, what was most fascinating was, like I said, puzzle games or games that really utilize the second screen in cool ways. And games like these definitely did that. So my weight loss coach, I thought this would be a cool kind of this. I felt like this. I think this is around the same time that Wii Fit came out for the Wii. So a lot of people started making fitness type games, and this was one for your DS. I thought it was cool because you could take it on the go, whereas Wii Fit you couldn't. I mean, you had no, I think that wasn't until was that on Wii? Yeah, it was on Wii. I can't remember, but yeah, so you could take your kind of fitness thing and go. Again, there was no cell phone, there was no app for this stuff. So this what made the DS was like the first version of an app-filled cell phone. That's what the DS was really cool at. And so this kind of stuff that you do on your cell phone now in an app just wasn't a thing at the time. So it was a real cool thing to have. Then you have stuff like this, I Spy, which is kind of like you're like you're a detective. You're solving puzzles and stuff like that. You're finding clues, and the DS made it really interactive because you'd have the second screen, you have your stylus, and you could be chiseling away at something. That made you. It was very immersive that way, and I like games like that were on the DS that gave you that ability. Then you had stuff like Star Trek Battle. What is it? Tactical Assault. I was going to say Battlestar Assault. But again, very nerdy. You could use the stylus to do kind of tweaking in your engines and all the nerdy stuff that comes along with Star Trek. You could kind of it helped it feel more immersive because it felt like you were actually affecting like your ship's abilities and all that kind of stuff. Spores Creatures was very cool puzzly game. I'm sure you guys know what Spore is. If not, this version is a little different. I'm trying to remember because I did play the original. Yeah, so you just kind of create, guide, and nurture your creatures. It's like a creature nurturing type of game. And again, on the go, that was kind of new. It was cool to have something like that. And then I was really excited for stuff like this, Age of Empires. Now this is like stuff I think there was some maybe on consoles, but PC type games that real-time strategy and stuff like that. With the stylus and the second screen, made those games more viable on a handheld, on a gaming console, even though it's a handheld console, and it was just way more intuitive than like using your controller and then having to go into menus, because your menu was right there on the screen, and you can see it right there. Maybe see, it's a little blurry, but yeah, so you can have the top screen for your action and whatnot, and your bottom screen was where you just put in your commands, and you can see stuff in real time. And this was very cool on the DS. It was games like that really excited me about the DS, like this game. Again, Dream Chronicles. This is, again, a PC style game. This one specifically is, what is it, between reality and fantasy? This is a more fantasy style, spell casting and whatnot. Again, it felt more interactive when you were using the stylus. Some people would say gimmicky, and it could be, just like on the Wii. You can have more. People consider this generation Nintendo's gimmicky era, with the DS and the stylus, and then the Wii remote and whatnot with the Wii. But for me, I just felt like it made it more interactive, made it more fun to play games that I had already been playing, but you can play them in a different way. And oh man, games like this, Chronicles of Mystery, Ancient. I mean, this is, you're solving puzzles, you're doing almost like crime solving. You're unlocking mysteries, and to be able to do that again with the second screen and the stylus, it made it way more interactive, and that was a very cool thing for me when it came to DS games. And here, Sherlock Holmes. What do I have to say? You're solving mysteries, and it was very cool to do that. Obviously this is more of an old school version, but something like the Phoenix Wright stuff, where you're solving cases and whatnot. Some people don't care about that stuff, but I nerd out on that kind of stuff, and it was very fun. Obviously, there was way more games that came out on DS, more kind of mainstream stuff. That also made it cool. This was the return of Contra to where it wasn't embarrassing. And Contra 4, I believe WayForward made this. And this is a really good Contra game. This is probably my second favorite Contra game, behind the first one, because the first one is nostalgic, and I just have muscle memory with that game. I remember beating it live a few years ago on my channel with no extra lives code, no Konami code, because I love that game so much. I rinse that game. Me and my cousins usually. But this is a return to form. It had elements from the original Contra, but it also had elements of my used to be second favorite, Contra 3 Alien Wars. Honestly, Alien Wars and the Sega Genesis one, Contra Hardcore, were pretty close as far as my favorites. But this probably takes it, and then Contra Hardcore and Contra Alien Wars are probably I tied them for third place. But yeah, this is really good Contra game. And then you had, again, more traditional Nintendo games like Legend of Starfy, which was really good, very beautiful art and graphics and whatnot. And then we get into good old boy Professor Layton, and I believe these are only 3 games that came out on the DS. It might be another one, and I didn't know it at the time. I went back to buy it, and it was like super expensive. But I don't think these are. So you have which one is this? This is Unwound Fortune. I can't remember what order they came out. I think it was Curious. I think it was the Curious Village was the first one, I think, and then Diabolical Box was second, and then Unwound Future was third. But they're all fantastic games. If you like PC style kind of mystery adventure games, Professor Layton is top of that, and this is a great series that I think everybody should play. And then you had the more obscure stuff, but really cool games like 999. This is kind of a I always forget the name. It's like a motion novel. What do they call those? I always forget the type of game it is, but this is a very good one. There is a sequel. I can't remember the name of it. It's got a completely different name that came out. But obviously you have Phantom Hourglass, my first DS Zelda game, which is fantastic. Some people didn't like, them forcing you to, movements with the stylus. But again, I felt like if you're gonna give me a system like the DS, utilize its features, and I was cool with it. So, but that also brought out, like I said, the stylus brought out kind of brain games and stuff like that. And so you had stuff like Flash Focus, which is kind of one of the lesser known, kind of cheaper ones, but still good. And then you had, these are basically kind of copycats of the game I'll get to in a minute. Left Brain, Right Brain, again, kind of brain teasing, brain training types of games. Then you had a straight up, I want to say copy, but the closest you can get to one, Brain Boost, Gamma Wave. There you go. Okay. This is a very pretty blatant copy of Nintendo's series, which is the Brain Age series. And these are very good. These are well thought out. I feel like Nintendo designed the DS for these games specifically. They're awesome. Like, they're helping you to it's brain training. It's like helping your cognitive abilities. And these are like scientifically studied, and they're great, both of them. Definitely these are types of games that the DS was made for, and if you don't have them in your library, you're using your DS wrong, as I like to say. And then you had the copycat of another franchise I'll show you in a second, Pets. What is it? Who's the? I guess it's just Pets. Dog pack. So you have mixed breeds, family of dogs. So you get to, pick your dog and train and do all kinds of stuff. But this is a lesser version of the Nintendogs, which was cleverly named. But one of the first games I bought for my Nintendo DS. I believe this was a launch title. I got this one at launch, I believe. But there was like different versions, almost like Pokemon, where you can have different starter dogs. And these games are really cool. And you feed them, and you walk them, and you train them, you do all that cool stuff. And I felt like a total weirdo playing these games, but they were great. And then I think, to me, this is the DS game, Trauma Center Under the Knife. It's like the game Operation from back in the day, the board game, where you don't touch the sides when you're trying to operate on a person. This was like the video game version of that. and it's like I keep saying motion novel, whatever that's called, but it has that kind of sensibility to it. But it has the action of having to be precise and helping people's like ailments, their wounds. You have to extract stuff from them. You have to operate on certain organs and whatnot. Very cool game. It's very stressful because they had that music and they had the red numbers and it would be blinking at you. But great series. Also on the Wii. Also works really well with the Wii remote. And another one of my favorites, Star Fox Command. Again, they utilize the dual screen and also the stylus. And again, so some people feel, it's not a traditional Star Fox game because you're doing gimmicks and whatnot, but I think it's fantastic. So it brought back, it's funny because we never got the game. Star Fox 2 had kind of strategy elements in it. If you remember that game, eventually came out on the Super NES Mini. They finally released that game. It was completely done. But there's elements of Star Fox 2 that were used for this game before we knew what Star Fox 2 was. So it kind of came full circle, and it was very cool. It's Star Fox, you know what that is, but it has like more strategic elements in it, which was very cool. So the DS, was fantastic. All of its iterations combined, the different versions combined. They sold 154 million units. At one point, that was just 1 million shy of the PS2. I'm going to do a video on that pretty soon as well, so stay tuned. Which somehow they found 5 more million sales for the PS2 at some point. 5 million, which is, wow. That's crazy. They found they found them in a closet somewhere. Oh, there was 5 more million sales. But yeah, the DS was a huge success. It was the print money era for Nintendo with the Wii and the DS, and it was fantastic. And the console that I was, worried about, the handheld I was worried about that was gonna, maybe affect Nintendo's dominance with handhelds, didn't do it. It was almost outsold 2-1. And I'm talking about the PSP. That doesn't mean the PSP didn't do well, because it did do well as far as the console itself. The numbers are, I think, 80 plus million. And here are my current PSPs. As you can see the camera here. This is the 2000 model. I had a 1000, the black one, but I traded it in for a 2000 because the 2000 offered a cool new feature. I'll talk about it in a second. This is the first 2000 I had, the silver. I've stripped them for parts, especially this one. So you can see this one has the silver back, but I ended up putting it on to this one. Because the screen on this one started acting wonky, looking funny, and so I switched it. I got like a parts, bought a cheap one and switched the parts and whatnot, because that's what I would do to save some money. And then eventually I settled on this one, because this came with this nice little door here with the great Darth Vader. This came in the set that had a bundle for, I think it was Battlefront. I don't know if it was 1 or 2. I think it was 2. So they came with this game, with this console, with the nice cool battery door there, and Battlefront 2 came all in the box. Yeah, the PSP, I love the design of the PSP because it's back to like the Game Boy Advance, which I think is the best handheld shape for any handheld, where it's like wide and then it's just more comfortable to hold for long periods of time. And most handhelds today have that long look, the long kind of look to it, and not like this way, like the original Game Boy, where it was kind of a long device, and you held it like this, and your hands were kind of cramped because you had to bring them in. Whereas this, it rests, everything rests pretty well in your hands. Let's see, it's probably a better camera for that. As you can see here, everything rests pretty well. So I love this. Like I said, for the probably even to now, because it's, as far as dedicated handhelds go, the PSP is my favorite. It's sleek in its design. It's got a nice UI, and it has everything you're looking for here. And on the front, as you can see there, let's see if it's too much glare. But if you look at the, is that a better camera for it? Probably. Let's see if I can focus here. There we go. So if you look at it there, you have your home button, your volume up and down. There's a PSP logo in the middle there. I can't remember what this button does, but there's your music button. Sends you right to your MP3s and whatnot. If you have them on your SD card, or excuse me, the what was it called? What are the cards called? Let me pop it open here. I can't remember. Oh, it's not on that side. From the other side. What the heck were these cards called? Why can't I remember the name of it right now? Maybe it's on here. Yeah, the Memory Stick Duo. The Memory Stick Duo. As you can see there, there's your memory stick. And this was kind of part of the downfall because they had their own proprietary memory, which Sony never learned their lesson for. There's a lot of money to be made with memory cards, but forcing people to buy your proprietary memory card and then having them be very expensive was just a stupid move. But again, on here you have your start and select button, and you have all your face buttons for this, Sony hand or Sony gaming consoles, and the D-pad is a split D-pad, and then you have your, what do you call it, analog nub, which really did come in handy, I thought, for your 3D controlling games. It was very good for that, and just the features that this thing had was amazing. So up top you have your WLAN on and off button, and then you have your power adapter port there, and then on the bottom that's not power adapter, that's charging, and then on the bottom here you have your DC, not charging, but files, for plug into your computer, so you can put music on and whatnot. That's the USB micro, I think they called them back in the day. And then on the bottom is your power adapter port there, the yellow one there. And over here is your headphone jack, but it also served a different purpose on the 2000 models and up, where you plug in, and here you plug in a, I guess, AV adapter, AV cables that you can plug into your TV, and you can play PSP games on your TV. And but it was a little bit cumbersome because the cable went that way. You plug it in, and the wire would run that way instead of running back away from you. I don't know why they did it that way. I think they thought it was safer on the port, I guess, less strain on the port. But yeah, you can use this then as a controller, and you play on your TV. Obviously, you have the cable, and that was dangling and whatnot, and kind of cumbersome connecting you to the TV. But it was a cool way to be able to play your PSP games on a TV. So yeah, and here is the slot for your UMDs. That's where your UMDs go. And these were so cool looking to me. And here I actually have a movie, and if you can see it, it's Hollow Man, a thriller, I guess, somewhat horror. Kevin Bacon, he's an Invisible Man. But yeah, I always thought these were just the coolest little device. I wished SD cards is what killed this, basically, flash memory. But I always thought like mini disc, DVDs, tiny disc device. They were all the future movies. All the movies about tech and future always had like a mini disc, And that's what Nintendo thought was going to happen, because they talked about that with the GameCube in the beginning. Like, oh, maybe you will use this for a handheld device in the future. But, like I said, because of SD flash memory cards and whatnot, that never became a smart, viable thing. Because the problem with these types of medium is that you have to have a drive that will read them. So that's a bunch of tiny little moving parts. So you can see them in there. Obviously, this is a drive that has a bunch of little tiny moving parts, along with a laser or lens that has to read it. It has to read it fast enough, and it's just way more expensive than sticking a flash card into a flash card slot and playing a game off of that, which became the future that we didn't realize. But that's what happened. It got realized. And so, but these were, to me, it was super. It was the future, the little UMDs. And speaking of, like I said, movies, here's the Hollow Man UMD case. I love these cases for PSP as well. It's one of my favorite thing about the Switch cases is that they're kind of similar. These are a little thicker because they had to hold, the UMDs, which are a little thicker. But I like these smaller cases. You can put it's a smaller imprint, so you can put more cases on the shelf, and it would fit. You can fit more. It was nice and compact and whatnot. And so I have Hollow Man there. I have Zathura. I have the Sandlot 1 and 2. And Ice Age. I have plenty more, but these are the ones that were easy for me to pull out. But yeah, so like I said, I get on the city bus and watch these movies on the way to school or while I was at school. Again, there was no cell phones, there was no handheld PCs. So this is the best way to do multimedia on a small portable device, was the PSP. It was a fantastic little handheld. And the movies, they had to, basically, what's the word? Compress. You had to compress them a lot to fit on these UMDs, because I think UMDs were under a gig or just barely a gig. Maybe, somewhere around there, I think UMDs were. So, not enough to fit, even, a standard definition DVD, because there were, 3-4 gigs. And so all the extra features and all that stuff was not on here. So you have the full length movie, widescreen presentation for your special features. That's it. And subtitles. So you didn't really get any special features because it couldn't fit. They didn't have enough room. And I'm looking at all of them to make sure I'm right about that. I believe I remember that correctly. Yeah, so unlike a DVD, all you got was a straight movie on here. No special features, no behind the scenes, any of that stuff, because there was just no room for that. But that was fine because you just wanted to watch the movie anyway. You didn't care to have all that. It was just a cool way to have a portable device that you can watch movies with. Because I think portable devices for DVD watching were like this freaking big. They were big. They were like maybe half the size of a laptop, and they had pretty crap screens. At the time, the LCD on the PSP was pretty good, but they were bulky, and you had to plug them in, where you didn't have to do that for a PSP. They had a battery in here that you charged, not a super great battery, but good enough, and you just take your charger with you, and you're good to go. But PSP was about games. So there lies the problem with the PSP. I don't know if it was just a victim of the pirating, because this thing was hacked pretty quickly, and people found ways to basically put games onto memory sticks and whatnot, or they would have attachments that fit into the memory stick slot, and you can put an SD card, and it was pretty cool. Pretty bad for the PSP. The PSP was very different from the DS because, like I said, DS had these really kind of DS-like games and features and whatnot that were specific to that. But I think a problem, honestly, with the PSP was that these were almost PS2 games, and some people who didn't care for handheld was just like, I'd rather play these on my TV. And so, sadly, the problem is the game sold decent. but they sold way less software than you expect for a console that sold 80 million units. A lot of people just had their PSP and they had them hacked out and they were playing, Super Nintendo games. They were playing, other stuff on it. They just hacked the crap out of this thing. And I don't know if that was a thing that caused it to not be as successful, or if that was just, stuff that somebody did after the fact, and it didn't really affect how successful this thing was. But like I said, it sold 80 million units. There's games in the millions of units sold as far as the top games on it. But if you look at it, if you look at the games list, top selling games list, not as good as you would think. So a lot of games actually got ported from the PSP back to the PS2, like the Grand Theft Auto games. I remember the God of War games were ported over at some point, and because people were just like, I'd rather play these on my TV. We weren't quite in the era of everybody wants to take everything on the go. We're in that era now, but not as much then. It was very appealing to me, like I said, for specific reasons, but not as appealing to a lot of people. But man, I love this freaking thing, and the games were a big reason why. I think the types of games I played most on PSP were sports games, and I have a ton of them. I think handhelds are a great way to like go through a season, because you can take it with, again, you're not grinding. You can grind away wherever you go through your seasons, and seasons are long if you play like especially if you play like baseball or something like that. But even like football games, the seasons can be kind of long. And it was just cool to grind away on your handheld. You can take it everywhere. And so I have a ton of sports games. Here's a not All-Star. This is Major League Baseball 2008, 2K8 by, that great Vicarious Visions team. His MLB The Show 06. I got MLB or Major League Baseball 2K6. Well, it means baseball. NBA Live 06. You got Dwayne Wade as the cover athlete there. Madden. I used to play so much Madden on PSP. Madden 07. I think it was probably when I played the most on PSP. Madden 07. And again, for this time, this looked like a PlayStation 2 game, especially when you're shrinking down to the PSP screen. This is like I was playing a PS2 game on the go. So graphically, I wasn't envious. They're very good looking games. And you have NBA 07, Kobe on the cover, RIP. Do I have 2 copies of MLB The Show? This must be something I got in a lot. Yeah. So there you go. I'll have to sell one of these, maybe. I'll probably get pennies for it. Separate that off to the side. You got, this is Major League. I would buy these yearly. And PSP games got really cheap pretty quickly. Because, again, like I said, they didn't sell as well as the console games. Because the console games, people would rather play the console game. But this is the first time I played Monster Hunter Freedom 1. And Monster Hunter Freedom 2. And I love these games. They're just great. I didn't really get a full grasp of Monster Hunter until Try, I think. But, Monster Hunter, this is a great way, again, to grind through a game. These are perfect games. RPGs especially, which I have a bunch of those on PSP as well. But they had some cool action games as well. And again, games that you like, why don't I just play that on my PlayStation, PS2? Games like Pursuit Force, these are great. 1 and 2, I don't have 2 yet. I'm going to get them. But these are fun, like over-the-top 80s action type of movies, but in a game form. Pursuit Force. SOCOM, you guys know, obviously this was a console game first, and it became a PSP game series. Fantastic. Why don't you bring a SOCOM back? Killzone Liberation. I remember this is not a first-person game. So, like I said, games looked like they were PlayStation 2 games, but you know they didn't have quite the oomph that a PS2 had. So this game was actually kind of top-down, right? Yeah, it was kind of top-down. It wasn't a first-person shooter like it is on the console. Because this is a PlayStation 3 game. Or no, did Killzone start on PS2? I think it did. I think Killzone 2 was the first PS3 game. Coated Arms. This is a first-person shooter game, and this is very good, very well done. Because you know, I'm not sure if it even uses the analog nub or not. I think it just uses the D-pad. But this is a very good FPS. You can't really get a good look at it, but it was designed with the PSP in mind, and it looks really good. Graphically, very nice, and gameplay pretty cool. And Siphon Filter came back for the PSP as well. They also came out for PS2. I think there's one game on PS2, but I was a fan of the PS1 series. So, yes, Logan Shadow. And then you have Dark Mirror. I think this is the first one. Dark Mirror was the first one that came out. And then Logan Shadow was second. But yeah, continue with sports games. You can add in WWF games as well. WWF. Was it E yet? Or is just, no, they just had the WW here. So they didn't even have the E yet. They took the F away, but they didn't have the E yet. So that's pretty funny. 2009. Again, NBA Live 10. Basketball games. I really love playing basketball games on the go on PSP. That's why I was really excited when 2K was announced for Switch. I think I've even put a video up about that. Talking about the PSP even. How I was happy that we can have basketball games handheld again and like console quality. And this one's just NBA. I don't even remember buying this. This is probably real. Oh, 989 Sports. So that's cool. They were good at one point, but I don't know if at this point they were. And then Sega Rally Revo. These games are always really good. Sega Rally games, dope. So, all right. And these were the other type of games that I played a ton of, but that's just a handheld thing. Is puzzle games. And so you had the Lumines series. Is it Lumines or Lumines? I'm going to say Lumines because there's a kind of explosive kind of effects visually in the game. So it's like a mine, I guess. But I always call it Lumines. But you have 1 and 2, which got remastered for Switch and I think other consoles as well. So that's really cool. That's kind of sad also because it takes away from the uniqueness of my legacy consoles when they bring them out, but it's cool that newer gamers can play them, and I buy them too if it makes sense for me to do so. Here's one of my favorite series the sequel came out for Switch, Pixel Junk Monsters. These games, they're not cozy, but they have everything that cozy games have. This is Pixel Junk Monsters Deluxe. It has the music. I really love the music in these games, and the gameplay. It's it's kind of like tower defense, but it's a lot of fun. And you have these weird little warrior creatures. If you play the game, you know the series. If you know the series, you know what it's about. So yeah, it's a great series, a lot of fun, and like I said, very comfy. Extend every extra. Also another cool puzzle game. Mercury. I'm sure you can figure out what this is. This is kind of where you control the platform, and you're controlling a mercury ball, and you're going through levels. Exit. I don't really remember this game. Kinda. Oh yeah. This is another one of those kind of level-based puzzle kind of platforming games. Smart Bomb. You could probably figure it out. You're trying to basically defuse before time runs out. Different levels, and you're kind of controlling different circuits and making to defuse a bomb. And then you have Buzz Quizmaster, which is basically kind of like pop culture stuff. so you can compete with friends, yeah, wirelessly, which is also cool. It's one of those kind of family fun games that I'm slamming across it. Yeah, but yeah, PSP. Hold on 1 second here. Get back to the wife. All right. So yeah, PSP, and I'm gonna keep going here. I got so much more games. My PSP collection is one of my bigger ones, and I never really pawned much. Like I said, I used to pawn stuff as a struggling college student. I never really did that with PSP. There were some games I did, but then you have, again, console type games. Twisted Metal Head On, which is pretty cool. Not the best, but pretty cool. Midnight Club was a huge series. It was dub edition. And these games, again, they look graphically are freaking awesome. Can't see it here. I'll probably put up video clips and whatnot. But very good looking series. Very nice visuals. You got Need for Speed Most Wanted. In this era, car racing and that kind of stuff. Street racing stuff was all the rage still. Fat Princess, Fistful of Cake. So Fat Princess is one of Sony's forgotten mascots. I think they used her for PlayStation All-Stars. I think she's a character in that. I never played the game, but I think she was the character in that. But this is like a top-down kind of action adventure game, and it's pretty fun, pretty cool. Fat Princess. I love it. Very funny. And then you go with the Ratchet and Clank games. Size Matters. I think this got ported at some point back to PS2. But yeah, I think the Ratchet and Clank games all got ported to PS2, the PSP ones. Don't have to tell you what Ratchet and Clank is. Me and my Katamari, you guys know Katamari Damacy. This is the PSP version of it. I don't know if this ever got re-released or put on anything else. It might even be a PlayStation 2 game. I don't know. Like I said, there were a lot of ports ports from PSP. Loco Roco. I love Loco Roco. Again, a very cozy game. This one is sealed because I already have a loose copy of it. So I got it for super cheap. So it's cool to have a sealed copy, I guess. It's not worth anything. It's just a nerdy, what do you call it? Collector thing. Tokobot, very cool puzzle action adventure game. I love these games. And looks kind of similar to a current Sony mascot, but different colors. But another robot that's popular with Sony right now. Oh man, Death Jr. I don't know what different systems this came out on, but whatever it is, look it up. And I know it's on Wii. I can't remember if this is the same game that's on Wii. But the PSP game is the one I played the most. So I can't remember if this is just a port. But fantastic game. This is a great, again, mascot. Not so much platformer. There is platforming in it, but it's more of an action adventure game starring Little Death Jr. Fun. It reminds me of like Tim Burton-esque visually, like Nightmare Before Christmas type of kind of visuals, or those like mid 90s Nickelodeon cartoons that had the kind of elongated kind of visual aesthetic to them, kind of dark, creepier aesthetic. Love this game. Death Jr. Here's another one that has that kind of Nickelodeon feel. Deadhead Fred. And it is what it says it is. It's a classic tale of murder, corruption, and revenge. But you play as Deadhead Fred, and it's an action adventure game. And it's fantastic. I love this game so much. And this is the sequel to Parasite Eve. Is there a Parasite Eve 2? I feel like there is, but for whatever reasons, they didn't call it Parasite Eve, whatever. This is just called The Third Birthday. But this is really cool in the Parasite Eve franchise, I guess you would call it. And it only came out for PSP as far as I remember. Now, PSP also got Metal Gear games, but I believe the first one was this Metal Gear game, Metal Gear Acid, which is a strategy RPG game. So not your typical action espionage game, but they did rectify that with Peace Walker. So this is, I don't know if this ever got ported to anything else, but this is a Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker for you Metal Gear heads. I play Metal Gear games for a little while and I just kind of trail off, but I always end up buying them because I'm trying to see what everybody else sees in Metal Gear. I really try. My other camera finished, recording. I don't really need it, so I'll just keep going. Lords of Arcana. This is a really good action. Not action. It's RPG. This is turn-based, right? I can't actually. Yeah, looks like it's turn-based. I vaguely remember this. I don't quite remember it, but if I have it, it's probably a good game. If I buy a game and I keep it, it's likely a good game. I don't keep junk usually. I don't really buy it. I'm really research before I buy a game. Final Fantasy Tactics, the War of the Lions. I do not remember these because they're melting together for me. If this is just a port of the PS1 game, which I loved, Final Fantasy Tactics on PS1. If this is just an enhanced port with more stuff, or does it say on the back here? It does not. Explore meet new characters, experience new CG cinematic. So I think this is an enhanced port. Explore new jobs and missions, wage new multiplayer back, because it keeps saying new. Behold a new legend. So I think this is like an enhanced version of Final Fantasy Tactics. Maybe there's more stuff. There's a new maps and whatnot, but it's at its core the same game. And Lord of the Rings Tactics, obviously it's a tactics RPG game. Lord of the Rings. Again, I don't know if this is on the bigger consoles, home consoles or not. Then you have, which one is this? Birth by Sleep. Kingdom Hearts. Again, this is another series that I buy that I never complete. I have every Kingdom Hearts game and I have not finished them yet. I finished the first one. I did finish Kingdom Hearts, and I finished it on the PS3, so it was the HD version. I think it's like Kingdom Hearts 1.5 or whatever, so I beat it there. But I haven't beat any of the other ones yet. And this is like one of those series that I'm going to go all the way through at some point and finish. Ooh, Valhalla Knights. Now this is also a game that's on handheld or on console. I don't know if it's the same game because I do have this for Wii. I think it's Wii. Valhalla Knights, if I'm not mistaken. But I love the PSP one. This is an action-adventure game. Action-adventure RPG. Valhalla Knights. And it's very good. And you guys definitely know this one here. This is Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, which released within a year ago on everything. And again, I'm happy that it came out for a Switch, because that's the way I envision playing a game like this. It's, I think the Switch version is not as googly. It doesn't have, I think the other versions might have 60 when Switch only has 30. Correct me on that if I'm wrong, but it's the same game. Obviously, it's a remaster, and it looks really good in the new version. But I love this game on PSP. It's one of my favorites. So I was really happy to see it come to other consoles, modern consoles. But yeah, there it is. The PSP and the DS. Let's put them together here. Duked it out. At some point, the PSP was left behind, left in the dust by the DS. The DS want it out. Actually, I probably should just, I don't want to open it up and pull it out, but the DS beat down on the PSP. But for my money, I enjoyed the PSP way more. Let me take it back, because I think the 3DS is probably my all-time favorite handheld. I think it was overtaken. I think the 3DS overtook this as my all-time favorite handheld. Just as far as gaming goes, 3DS I think I like better overall. But PSP, for the longest time, was my favorite from when it came out up until 3DS. So, or up until probably mid 3DS, when I decided, I like the 3DS better. But it's a fantastic handheld. So there you go. DS. I don't think the PSP still have a couple more months to go to hit 20. But I thought I'd do this now and just kind of do them together. And oh yeah, almost forgot. So one of the PSP's issues was its battery. This is a newer one made by a third-party company. But the battery in PSP was known to like be bad and swell up. Not only not last long, but also swell up and just fail. I believe that's what happened to my first. Where's my? I don't even know where it is. Do it. I got it. Oh, no, that's not it. I got it covered up because it's the. Oh, there it is. I believe that's what happened to my first PSP. As you can see, the door is missing. I think it broke the door when it swelled up and just popped off the door. And there's a little latch here. It just didn't hold anymore. So I believe that's what happened in this, and that's when I started kind of taking this thing away for parts. But yeah, that was an issue with it. But the newer, like I said, the third-party ones, if you buy them online, they're pretty good if you want to play your PSP. And I saw a really cool mod that turns your PSP into a console. It consoleizes it, and you just get kind of the what is it called? You get the shell for it, and it's very easy to like hook up and turn it into a console where you only play it on your TV. And it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool mod. And I think pretty easy for the average person to do. So, and yeah, so yeah, that's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. PSP, DS, really good era. Probably the golden age of handheld gaming. Some people probably go back to the 90s. I probably would too. But this is probably the last great gen of handheld gaming, because PSP or PS Vita was no competition whatsoever for the 3DS, and 3DS was amazing, but it just wasn't anything else really out there to compete with it, and to have that kind of back and forth dueling experiences going on. So, but yeah, that's my video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Are you guys handheld gamers? Did you like the PSP or the DS? Let me know in the comments. What were your favorite games? I didn't really show all of my... Like I said, I almost forgot. Let me just go ahead and share this real quick before we get out of here. I'm just knocking stuff all over the place. I bought a bunch of blank kind of cases because I have a ton of loose PSP games, as you can see here. I have a ton of them. I used to buy these things in bulk in like game stores because they were just trying to get rid of them at some point, late 2000s. So I have a ton of just like loose, a ton. This is a fraction of the loose games and cases that I have. I'll prove it by just showing another stack here. So I bought a bunch of like blank cases, and I'm gonna print out with my printer, print out the covers. Here's a used one I bought at GameStop years ago. Oh, John Dark. This is a great action adventure RPG game, John Dark. But yes, I also did that. I also did this recently for my DS games. I have a bunch of loose DS games as well, so I bought a bunch of cases for them, and I'm gonna print out my own cover art. I'm not gonna worry too much about having the booklet and complete and all that stuff. I don't really care. But yeah, so I have a ton of just loose games as well. So great consoles, both of them. So yep, that's my video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you again for watching and listening, and see you fools next time. Peace out.
Okay, I've got to get going.
Okay, well that's weird. Yo, you got this!